And I was honestly shocked by how much compelling evidence is that there is that the church helps our LGBTQ plus identifying members quite a bit more than critics give us credit for.
Can't keep quiet when you start a riot.
RFK said really well, it's never the good guys that are advocating for censorship.
If critics can't answer that question in the affirmative, then why are we listening to critics?
Got our scripture notes up and running. All of the scriptural references used in this episode will be brought to you by scripturenotes.com. For a free trial to Scripture Notes, please visit the link in the description. So, hey, we're going to go to the next one right here. This is kind of cool. This is fun. I think they put them all in the Discord. I'm just cruising down the little list right here. What are all these quotes? Talk to me about these quotes right here, my man. Why do these quotes make it into the list on the Discord?
So Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris, two famous atheists, they talk about, I quote this toward the beginning of the Fruits of the Church section. Richard Dawkins, faith to me seems to qualify as a kind of mental illness. And then Sam Harris, essentially something similar, like belief and faith, it qualifies somebody as having a mental illness. And so then my question is, are religious people by definition sick, right? Are we just like a despondent, miserable lot and religion's making us mentally ill? That's the question. I don't want to bury the lead, but no. Church members are doing really well by every meaningful measure. Sure, there's some people have had a bad experience and they felt judged or whatever. But if you're looking at life expectancy, you're looking at happiness, you're looking at health, you're looking at relationships, community, volunteer hours. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on of the benefits of being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So it's nonsense to say that the church makes people mentally ill, because the exact opposite is true in the data.
Okay, and do you have any specific data points or studies that kind of surprised you when you were writing this chapter of the I almost said the Book of Mormon, this chapter of the Book of Mormon defense, the Light and Truth letter?
Again, I am a beneficiary of the church. I even during my lowest faith moment crisis, I was very grateful for what the church had given me. When I envisioned leaving the church, I envisioned being one of those like really nice, like Sister Fife's husband. He's a super nice guy. He's just an atheist or he's agnostic, but he always takes the kids to. So she outed you. Tikla outed you. Oh, you were trying to get more cookies from the Lee Society, weren't you? So no, I'm just kidding. That was my vision of what type of former member I would be. I wasn't going to be antagonistic or bitter, because that's just not how I feel. I was really grateful for the church. And so what was your question that led this off? Because I lost my train of thought. Were there any specific studies? Oh, or like yes, definitely. So the church being beneficial for people didn't surprise me at all. And the evidence for that is like overwhelming. What did surprise me, and this is kind of part of the Fruits of the Church section, is all of the statistics on LGBTQ plus, our LGBTQ plus identifying brothers and sisters. Because the critics have this dominant narrative that the church is awful for queer members of the church. And frankly, I just believed it. I mean, I just took it hook, line, and sinker. There was no data, no statistics, no facts. I just thought, well, maybe they're right. And I just thought, yeah, okay, that's probably true. And then when you start looking into the data and facts and statistics, all of a sudden it becomes a lot more nuanced. It's not all bright and sunny. It's not like categorically, definitely 100% of the time. For example, the more LGBTQ plus that you identify, the less religious you become. And it's really well known that the less religious you become, the less happy you become. Yeah. And so, that's potentially an issue there. But, John DeLynn, he categorically states that like the church harms LGBTQ members of our faith. And at worst, that's completely false. At best, it's kind of a mixed bag. And so I think that was maybe the thing that surprised me the most. I didn't know when I went out to write this letter what I would find. And I was honestly shocked by how much compelling evidence is that there is that the church helps our LGBTQ plus identifying members quite a bit more than critics give us credit for.
Wow, that's so interesting. I was just can't help but think you look so great in the merch. You know what I'm saying? I want to keep putting the camera on you. The other thing that just blew my mind when I saw this is here's the screenshot of the Light and Truth letter. And with quotes like, "It is difficult to imagine a set of beliefs more suggestive of mental illness than those that lie at the heart of many of our religious traditions," or "Faith seems to qualify as a kind of mental illness." Like, do people not realize they sound just like Joseph Stalin? Like, who, I mean, this is, like RFK said really well, it's never the good guys that are advocating for censorship. Like, it's never the good guys that are advocating for censorship, right? And it's also never the good guys that are calling religious minorities mentally ill.
Right.
Because then that was literally what paved the way for Bad Mustache Man to be able to build some of the buildings that he put some of his political dissidents in. And it definitely was a premise of Joseph Stalin's reign of terror, and every person behind him. You either got sent to Siberia to a labor camp where I have family members that died. I didn't get to ever meet any of my great uncles or great aunts because after they were liberated from the Polish labor camps of the Nazis, they were liberated into the labor camp of the Soviets, okay, where they were worked to death. And if it wasn't the labor camp, because you were able-bodied and you were a political dissident who actually believed in, I don't know, freedom of the press, and you were a journalist, well, you must have been mentally ill to say what you said against Joseph Stalin. So by the way, by a mental institution, what we mean is a prison where you're pooping in the same bucket that you're smelling all day and that we feed you out of because we hate you. So like Richard Dawkins, he is smart enough to know this. Sam Harris, he's smart enough to know this, but like, do you really, if there were a dictator, if there were a secular dictator where they were to take over America, people making quotes like Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris could quickly become his Goebbels and his, right-hand propaganda minister with quotes like this, man.
I mean, I personally wouldn't lean that far into this idea, but what
I just did. You're fine.
You just did, yeah. But here's what the Light and Truth letter does. I rarely answer definitively any way or another. I just ask questions. And so the question I would ask in response to kind of what you're saying is, what are the fruits of atheism? And are they better than Christianity? If critics can't answer that question in the affirmative, then why are we listening to critics? And so, yeah, we could theorize Joseph Stalin and do that for days, but I think the real simple, just watered down, is just, what are the fruits of atheism, and are they better than the fruits of Christianity? I think definitively the answer is no.
Well,
okay. Oh, you have something to say?
No, mic drop.
Oh, okay. Rock on. Excellent.
She's biased.
She's biased.
I like you.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right, cool. So, well, we're only like 2 in. And there's 15 here. You know what I'm saying? So like, we'll just keep going.
Let's go.
Here's I guess this is just about happiness, my man. This is just about average happiness right here. Here's the quote.
I love this quote.
You love this one.
Oh my gosh.
Do you want me to read it or do you want to read it?
Yeah. So why don't you read the top part and I'll read the bottom part. The top part is a user on ex-Mormon Reddit.
Okay, so the user, and full disclosure, I haven't seen this one before. I'd be curious to see research about why so many Mormons are unhappy or closeted in unhappiness. Has anybody ever seen research about this? Wow, talk about trying to make self-fulfilling prophecy. Jeez.
You know what this reminds me of? Like Trump derangement syndrome. Have you seen like all the people that are like, oh, I totally believed he was like the worst person ever, and I was streaking onto, NFL stadium saying Trump sucks, so like that famous YouTube, I can't remember his name right now. And then all of a sudden he's like endorsing Trump, and he's like, I just believed what people told me, without any facts. And I just totally thought he was the worst person ever for democracy. That's kind of what this reminds me of.
And then like confirmation bias kicked in. I was like, does anybody have a study that can verify my heinously toxic view of this other human being?
Well, and then acknowledging that, maybe they're not unhappy, but they're closeted unhappy.
Well,
You can't even tell that they're unhappy.
A few paragraphs before, I quote, so this is part of the same thread on Ex-Mormon Reddit, and it's somebody reacting to some statistic about how Latter-day Saints are really happy people and well-off people. And it's just comment after comment like, yeah, right. Okay, so being drunk, yeah, sure, you're happy, but and they just keep going on and on and on and keep stepping all over themselves to prove through their personal examples that the church doesn't make you happy because they weren't happy or whatever the case is. And so then at the end of this long section where I highlight just how well-off members of the church are when it comes to mental health and physical health and community and all the things that contribute to mental health, I end the section with this quote, and then I say, if the Reddit user mentioned above is reading this, I hate to inform you, but that research has not come out yet and likely never will.
Oh, brutal, man. Brutal. So research on how we are closeted. By the way, what a slap in the face to those that survived the 60s and 70s when you actually might get fired from your job for being gay. Like saying a closeted happy person. Like they don't realize how, I think every single time one of these ex-Mormon, anti-Mormons calls like the patriarchy really just like white supremacist and, or they call a faithful member of the church a Nazi. I think, and this is one of the things I said in my Jubilee debate with John DeLynn and some of the other people that, of course, they didn't include, but I said, I think every single time an ex-Mormon, anti-Mormon uses the term Nazi to describe leadership of the church, they need to make a $10 donation to the Holocaust Memorial, because there are people whose families were destroyed, ruined, or like otherwise just deeply damaged, to say the least, by actual Nazi ideology,
right.
And I'm sorry, but like, thinking, for example, your kid should go to Boy Scout camp this summer with his friends and have a wholesome week in the woods. Okay, that's not brown shirt Nazism. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like you owe the legacy of those who have actually suffered a $10 donation as an indulgence for your fake suffering. I just, it's absolutely heinous, the words that they use to describe, because ultimately words have no meaning if you can say your wholesome upbringing was abuse.
Right.
And it's like, okay, words have just lost all meaning.
Right.
Okay. So, anyway, yeah, this is really funny on multiple levels. I was like, wow, calling them a closeted happy person. I was like, what a slap in the face to the Stonewall rioters. Okay. And then research about why so many Mormons are secretly closeted in their unhappiness. Like, sorry, the research has all come out. Like, don't you dare say that you are a movement rooted in science and facts and the pursuit of truth, when all of the science and the facts and the truth is that religious folks, especially religions that have rites of passage, that seems to be one of the big things that actually makes it so that religious families and societies seem to be more well-balanced, more cohesive, have better social fabric, more self-reported happiness, and so on and so forth, is if there are rites of passage that are oftentimes age-based. And in our faith, we do too. We don't have a ton of them, but you get baptized generally when you're 8 years old. 8 to 10 is when most kids in our ward get baptized. You receive the Aaronic priesthood 12 or 13 years old. You go and if you're one of the more faithful and active members, you might serve a mission when you turn, it used to be 19, now it's 18. And the young women, they've got, their different levels of young women's beehive, my maids, and
they got rid of those
They did
terms.
get rid of those.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying,
class 2.
R.I.P. my mates.
They need to bring back those terms. I
miss
hate
them.
class 1, class 2.
Oh yeah, lame, super neuter.
Can't keep quiet when you start a riot.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. We assume if you made it this far that you liked our content, so please make sure you like this video and you share it with your friends. Now, in order to keep this content flowing freely, we need your help. If you're a person of means, please check us out on Venmo, the Cash App, or Zelle and consider a direct contribution to the channel. Or you could always go to WardRadio.com and sign up for our newsletter there and receive all of our latest Ward Radio news articles directly to your inbox. And while you're there, maybe consider purchasing some merch. We have some really cool hats, some really cool shirts, so you can strut your stuff and support the channel that way. Or if you're a kind of person that wants to just help out with some of the equipment in the studio, we have an Amazon wish list linked in the description as well. And don't forget scripturenotes.com. You have to read your scriptures daily, and scripturenotes.com is frankly the coolest way to study your scriptures, and they're a very generous sponsor of this channel. So please consider a free trial with scripturenotes.com. The link to Scripture Notes will also be in the description of this video. Either way, whether you're pressing this little button right here to subscribe to our channel and share it with your friends, or whether you are actually hitting this button right here just to watch another video, we look forward to seeing you in the next program.